It was a dark and stormy night, and I was nervously awaiting my first ever babysitting job. I had been recommended to the family by a friend, and they seemed like a nice and normal couple. Little did I know, this would turn out to be the most terrifying night of my life. As soon as the couple left, I put their little angel, Lily, to bed and settled down on the couch to watch some TV. But then, I heard a strange noise coming from upstairs. I dismissed it as just the old house settling, but then I heard it again. Only this time it sounded like a child's giggle. I tried to brush it off, thinking Lily must have woken up, but when I went to check on her, she was sound asleep. Feeling uneasy, I decided to turn up the volume on the TV and try to distract myself. But then, the lights flickered and the TV went static. I quickly got up to check the fuse box, but everything seemed to be in order. That's when I heard a loud thud coming from upstairs. I was starting to get really scared, but I couldn't just leave Lily alone. I decided to call the parents, but their phone seemed to be out of service. I was on my own. I mustered up the courage to go upstairs and investigate the noise. As I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed that the door to Lily's room was wide open. I was certain that I had closed it before. I slowly pushed the door open and saw Lily sleeping peacefully in her bed. But then, I saw something move in the corner of the room. I turned on the light and saw a shadowy figure standing in the corner. I let out a blood-curdling scream and ran out of the room, grabbing Lily and heading downstairs. I was shaking with fear, but I knew I had to get out of the house. I gathered all my courage and made a run for the front door. But as soon as I reached for the doorknob, the door swung open by itself. I stumbled outside and saw that the storm had intensified. The rain was pouring down and the wind was howling. I ran to my car, put Lily in the back seat, and started the engine. But just as I was about to drive away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the same shadowy figure standing in the doorway, watching me. I drove as fast as I could, trying to put as much distance between myself and that house as possible. I didn't stop until I reached the nearest gas station. I called the parents and told them what had happened. They were shocked and apologized for not telling me about the strange occurrences in their house. They explained that their daughter had an imaginary friend who they believed was the cause of all the strange happenings. They assured me that they would take care of it and that I should come back to their house in the morning to collect my payment. Feeling relieved, I went back to the house the next day. The parents were waiting for me and handed me a check for my services. But as I was about to leave, I noticed something odd. The door to Lily's room was now closed and locked with a padlock. I asked the parents about it, and they hesitantly told me that their daughter's imaginary friend was not so imaginary after all. They had found out that the previous owners of the house had a daughter who died in that room, and her spirit was still lingering in the house. I was horrified and couldn't believe what I was hearing. The parents told me that they had hired a medium to communicate with the spirit, and they had managed to make a deal with her. In exchange for leaving their family alone, they had promised to keep the room locked at all times. I couldn't help but feel sorry for the little girl's spirit trapped in that room for eternity. As I was leaving, I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being watched. I turned around and saw the same shadowy figure standing in the window, looking out at me. I quickly got into my car and drove away, never looking back. To this day, I still get chills when I think about that night. I never went back to that house, and I never took another babysitting job again. It was a horrifying experience that I will never forget. And every time I see a child with an imaginary friend, I can't help but wonder if it's just their imagination or something more sinister.